Hey folks, John with Complete Technology Solutions, your friend in the computer business. Alright guys, so today we're going to test another one of these AtopNuc Mini PCs. And let me tell you why we're doing this. Be right back. Guys, my goal with this entire series of the mini PCs is to find something that we can use as the ultimate retro gaming computer. And I'm talking about a machine that'll run everything not only from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, but potentially up to the PS3 era. And granted, with the first AtopNucs, and you guys have seen us do the video on this, these have become my go-to. I've actually managed to get PS3 games running on these as well as Xbox 360s without too much trouble. Still a little bit of coding that's got to be done on that because they will run, but a lot of them won't run at full speed. So we're working on that too. But ultimately, what is holding me back is no matter what mini PC I test, I have not been able to find one that is allowing us to change the amount of allocated RAM on the video card beyond 1 gigabyte. Now, granted, on most games that are made pre-2006, give or take, maybe 10, that's not a big deal. But when you start getting into the more complex games, you need to have that RAM on the video card. You really do. And preferably an integrated video card is not what we want. We would love to have a standalone video card on the board, but we're also trying to keep it in that $100 price range, so you can see how that may not quite be as easy as we think. But today we're going to go ahead and test out the AtopNuc AG40W. Now, admittedly, guys, this is one I was going to pass over. It is a Celeron processor with 4 gigs of RAM. It does have the same 128 gig M.2 in here, which is the reason I didn't pass it over, because we can swap that. So lower RAM, slower processor, but it did come in $20 cheaper. So these were only like $70. So it's definitely something to look at. So let's crack this open together here, and let's see what we got to play with. You know, on these, I am thinking that my goal is I want to keep the system itself with the added 1 terabyte M.2 drive and up to 8 gigs of RAM under $120. If we can do that, it gives us some options to build some pretty crazy stuff. Let's see what we got in this box here. Okay, so right off the bat, guys, you guys can see it is a larger case. So we've got our AtopNuc manual in here, and it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, that's going to be a thin one. That's kind of interesting. Not too much to it. Plug it in, turn it on. All right, we got our standard power adapter. I am betting that that is a 12 volt. Yep, it is a 12 volt power adapter. And we've got a mounting bracket to mount this to the wall. And let's get this out itself. Okay, so weight-wise, that is similar. They're almost identical as far as weight, but you can see the size difference. It is actually physically quite a bit larger. Now, that may not be a problem, and one reason is because I also want to be able to use these to upgrade arcade 1-ups, standard arcade cabinets, or the double joystick controllers that you would plug in. And something small and thin like that would definitely fit that bill. But, all right, so let's take a look at it and see what it looks like here. All right. Oh, yeah, it is. It's very thick, kind of sleek, guys. All right, so looking at the front here, you've got an SD card slot, power, 2 USB 3.1s. I'm assuming those are 3.1s. I'll verify that. You've got a Type-C on the front. On the back, you've got VGA and HDMI. Now, that could come in incredibly handy. If you are upgrading an arcade 1-up, one of the biggest problems is that the monitors that are in there are going to come out VGA. That is an issue unless you end up getting one of the adapter cards, which I've got those videos up to. In fact, I'll throw a link up here to one of the mods that we did to adapt it from HDMI to VGA. But having that there is pretty cool. All right. Got our power in. We've got our gigabit LAN, and we've got 2 standard USB 2.0s here. Looks like that is... I don't know what that is. That looks like a headphone jack, but it definitely isn't. Your headphone jack is over here. So I'm not sure if that's a reset button, I would bet. Now, guys, to test this, look, it's got Windows 10 on it. let's see how it's going to run Windows 10. It's a Celeron processor with 4 gigs of RAM. It's going to suck. So let's crack this thing open and actually see what makes it tick inside. One thing I definitely like, now this has actually got a removable panel on the back. That's pretty cool, guys, which means that once we open this, we should be able to access everything from right there without having to completely disassemble it. Let's hope that's actually the case. They are very small Phillips heads. And let's see if we can get in here and take a look and see what we're playing with. All right, one screw there. One there. Here we go. Got 4 on the back. And bam. All right, so let's crack this open in the back. And, oh, okay. That's cool. So this is actually a drive bay, guys. So you can actually install a standard SATA drive in there. Now, you can either do a solid state or it looks like a standard regular SATA laptop drive in there, a 2.5-inch drive, without a problem. You do have a BIOS battery right there. But we need to get to the other side to see if we can change the M.2. So let's put this back on and let's pull the top off because that's what I really want to see. Be right back. Yeah, guys, so, you know, I like that concept. I really kind of do. Now, the more I think about it, being able to change out that drive right there on the back without a problem, to put in a secondary, 1 or 2 terabyte drive is a good idea. Now, there were no screws in here to open up the case, which leads me to believe that this is just held together with clips. And the way to find that out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pry up on one corner. I'm going to see if I can find one that looks like it's kind of loose. And then when I've got it, there we go right there. We got a loose corner right there. You guys can see that? And how that kind of pries up there? We're going to take one of these little blue spodgers and we're going to put it up under there and see if my theory is correct. And yep, did you hear that click? So we're going to run down this. Here, there it is. See how it's clicking? So it's just held, the top is held on by clips apparently. There we go. There we go. Clip, 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 and clip. All right, let's see if we can pull her open. There we go. All right, guys, so as you can see, that is just a one big flat single board computer. Everything from the processor to everything else is actually underneath this cooling. This is passive cooling. That's a big one to me, guys. These things have an active cooling fan on it. This is passive. Now, if you're doing basic stuff, that it may not be a problem. But if we're running heavy games on it, that could become an issue. This thing could get pretty hot. So we're going to call that a check mark in the let's not use box along with the Celeron on the 4 gigs of RAM, which, by the way, you cannot upgrade the RAM. That is another big no-no. So, yeah. You know what? No, we're not going to make any judgments. So let's go ahead. Let's get our screwdriver, and we will change out, there we go, this M.2 drive. So it's got a 128 here. We're going to pull that 128. There we go. And we are going to install our game disk that we built. Now, this is a 1 terabyte. Guys, I do actually have these for sale, complete with the game system on there. They will snap into any system, as well as an external bay if you wanted to. So let's pop this in, and let's see. Something else is kind of interesting, guys. Look at this. The entire thing came off the board. Now, that's not a huge problem. It's just kind of annoying. It shouldn't do that, because now I got to pull this apart. Hold on a second here. There we go. Yeah, I'm not holding super high hopes yet, guys. But once again, we're going to reserve judgment until we know for sure what we're dealing with. All right, let's pull that out. Let's put this back on here where it belongs. There we go. And then we will put that on there. You know, the lack of ability to add RAM is really bugging me. Which is terrible, because I like the concept of being able to change the drive. I like the overall layout of this, because if you pulled this completely out of this case, it would be super thin, which would be great. But unfortunately, that's not going to be, I'm not seeing a lot of, yeah. Okay, well, nope, we're going to reserve it. All right, I am going to leave the top off, guys, because I don't want to put this back on. I actually want to see if this gets warm. Let's plug this in. I'm going to re-angle Stumpy over here. Let's plug this in and boot it with this game system, and let's see what it looks like. Here we go. All right, so we've got Stumpy angled over here at the screen, guys. The first thing I really want to do is I want to see if we can get into this BIOS to change the amount of RAM that we can use in the video card. Now, look. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call it here. I have a feeling that we're dealing with a no-go right off the bat. And the reason I'm feeling that is because 4 gigs of RAM, that's simply not going to cut it. All right, but let's see if we can add any more video memory to this thing. And I seriously doubt we're going to be able to, guys. This is a very stripped-down BIOS. It will support Windows 11. I don't know that I would use it, but it will support Windows 11. Yep. By default, it is not activated for secure boot, which is actually kind of interesting. But you cannot adjust the amount of RAM on here. All right, look. Let's go ahead and boot it on in. We haven't booted it yet, so let's see how long this actually takes to boot into the operating system. Here we go. And just for reference, guys, I'm going to turn the audio down on this just because we don't want any, any issues with copyright. But one thing about this that's interesting is we are not going to adjust Batocera in any way. So if you look at this, if we had this one connected up here, and I'm going to show Stumpy this, you've got the 2 HDMI ports. If you were connected into the wrong HDMI port when this booted, it would not work. You had to be connected into the one closest to the power. This only has 1 HDMI, so I'm hoping that Batocera will be clever enough to just jump on there and give us the audio that we need. So, all right, let's take a look and see what we got here. All right, there's some Sega Genesis. Yeah. There we go. I can tell you, like, right off the bat, it is definitely running a little on the slow side. And that's annoying. But hold on. All right, guys, so we are into our operating system. Let's see if we've got music. We do have music, so that's a good thing. Guys, the boot on that, not that impressive. Honestly, it was a little bit slower than I was expecting, and that is weird. But, yeah. Let's test this out on a Windows game, just so that we can say we have tried it. Let's look at... Let's go to Stronghold Legends. And I'll tell you why. Stronghold Legends has a really cool intro where it's got a dragon that moves around. And I want to see if we're getting a good audio and video link up. There we go. And let's see what we get. Now, the boot up on this can take a little bit, but it looks like it's going relatively regular time. We do have good audio. For those of you who have not played Stronghold Legends, you're missing out. Yeah, I'm a huge strategy game fan, and this is one of them. So let's take a look and see what this is actually going to do. It is getting warm to the touch already, guys, and we're early in this. So, all right, we're going to go through all this.
In an age of
terror. Video's playing back okay.
When all hope had gone from the world.
Well, it's not bad. Not bad at all. Let's escape that. Yeah, that's not too bad at all. And if we just jump into a quick one and run some guys around, let's see what we can do here. And I want to run a couple of guys around and just see how they move around the field. How they okay, you see that slow draw pull there? Click and pull. See that lag? That's what I'm talking about right there. Yeah, you see how they're kind of jittery? Okay, that is what I wanted to see. You see how slow everything is moving. All right, well, that answers the question. So let's quit this. Let's quit out of here. And you'll notice how that went to black. That means that the HDMI on there did not auto-refresh. So, yeah. All right, shutting her down. Give me a sec. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to crate this back up. We're going to talk about the AG40 AtopNuc. Here we go. All right, guys, so what do we think of our AtopNuc? All right, look, I wanted this to be good. I'm not going to lie to you. I wanted this to be good. If this had had the ability to expand the RAM, and if I could have allocated 2 or 3 gigs to the system itself, this would have been okay. If it had had either one of those 2 options, this would have been okay. The problem is you cannot upgrade the RAM beyond that 4 gigs, and you absolutely cannot change the allocation on the RAM in the BIOS. The BIOS was incredibly limited. This BIOS, by far, these guys were far more advanced and did at least give you the ability to allocate separate amounts of RAM. Now, you can in Batacera upgrade it up to a certain point, but you want to be able to allocate it in the BIOS to get the proper usage out of it. Once again, the form factor, it's light. I'm sure if you're running Windows 10 and you're surfing the internet watching 4K videos, you're going to be fine. But if you're going to use it for any kind of gaming, don't go this route. So, and that's what we're talking about on this channel, guys. You're going to get the fleas with the dog. So if it's a good unit, we're going to talk about it. If it's a unit that I wouldn't use, which is this one, yeah, we're not going to play this game. Yeah. So, AtopNuc, this one, the AG40W, I would steer clear, guys. I would steer clear if you have anything that's going to require any kind of horsepower, for sure. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have got the coolest video coming your way. It is being delivered tomorrow, and I cannot wait till it gets here because it's been something I've wanted in the not only at the studio but in the flea market for a very, very, very long time for people. So stay tuned for that one. Have a great week, guys. Bye-bye.